Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Brick by Brick podcast. On this week's episode, I am joined by Jake Bartee. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Jake, and then we will ask you the infamous question of what the green wall means to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Miles. Hello to all those tuning in. Obviously, he mentioned I'm Jake Bartee. I couldn't be more excited to be doing this right now.
All right. So a little bit about your background. We just talked about it like right before we started this. You have a degree in mass communications. You've done some media work and whatnot. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that. And then just let us know what the green wall and OpTic means to you. And within your background, you can also talk about, how long you've been watching, your introduction, stuff like that.
For sure. So yes, I have graduated college already. I did that in mass communication, which is basically, it's a fancy way of just saying media. So over the course of that, I was learning how to produce, to kind of just write and cast stories, to find my own stories, to make them. And originally I went into it trying to do, I guess, traditional sports is the way to I would put it.
Yeah.
Was to get into traditional sports just because that's been something that's been going on for so long. And it's interesting because as of right now, it's kind of a funny life update, excuse me. I recently put in my 2 weeks notice at the current job that I'm working at, which was I'm a producer for a morning radio show. And I also produce a couple of things for ESPN over at where I live right now. I've been doing that for about 9 months, but I thought it was a good time to change. And with where I'm at in life right now, it's a good time to kind of figure out where I'm going.
I knew you did the radio thing. I didn't know that you were also doing some ESPN related stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's definitely the highlight of my job for sure. Yeah. But I can go into the question about what the green wall means to me now. It all kind of, I don't know. I've been watching COD esports since Black Ops 2. Even a little bit before that, I watched some of the OG Halo stuff. But it was always just like something cool to watch. I vividly remember the first time I watched professional Call of Duty. It was a clip on YouTube. I don't exactly remember the event, but it was MLG back in the day in Black Ops 2, and it was a Clayster in a 1v2 on Express Search and Destroy. He was in the top building, and there was two people. It was 1v2, one person on each side. He jumps down, kills one. Yeah. 180s, turns on the other guy, gets to the defuse, and then jumps up and does the big Superman celebrate. Right when that happened, right when I saw that, I was like, this is cool. Because I've been a huge gamer my whole life.
I don't remember what event that was, but I vividly remember the clip. Mm-hmm. Like that was my introduction to competitive Call of Duty. Real competitive. Like I technically got introduced during Friday Night Fights on Modern Warfare 3. But that was pretty like amateur, but like it was still kind of a step towards competitive. And then Black Ops 2, I watched every single tournament that entire year. Like I don't know if I missed a match between UMG Chicago 2012, which was the first tournament of the year. And I don't know if I missed watching a competitive COD match until maybe Advanced Warfare. It was like a solid 2 to 3 years. Like I just watched everything.
Yeah, maybe it's nostalgia. I'm not sure, but to me, still that was like the golden era of just like entertaining Call of Duty. Even though Complexity and Evil Geniuses just ran away with it that whole period for the most part. I just think it was like humble beginnings, especially to where the industry is now.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some, rose tinted glasses and lenses that we look at that era from or through. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely looked at as the golden era of at least competitive COD, but I think most would say Call of Duty in general was like Modern Warfare 2 through like Ghosts. Mm-hmm. I think it feels like we're always doing one step forward, two steps back, at least for the past few years. And I think a big part of that, especially on the competitive side, is franchising. I think Activision as a company didn't really know what they were getting into somehow, even though they've been doing it for so long. Like from a production standpoint and from, I think that something they do very poorly is we're in this time frame where esports is becoming, it's headed in the direction of traditional sports, and we're building franchises. And what's awesome about that is there's all these traditional sports that have paved the way and told us what things work. The downside of that, and I think this is what Activision fails at, is they look at it and they're really bad at picking and choosing the things that work and keeping the things that are like native to Call of Duty. I think they've tried to go like too professional with it almost. With things like fines, right? Like it bothers me that the players can't talk about their opinion on the game in a truthful manner. I get, you don't want them bashing it, but I think something like the suits, the execs up the chain don't understand is like it comes from a place of passion and love. Like you want Call of Duty to succeed. It's not coming from, oh, I hate this game. So, man, I wish they do this better so it can be better and bigger. So
yeah, that's one thing that's interesting to me, because as of right now, I've been almost entirely in the traditional business landscape of media in general. And growing up watching Call of Duty ascend from just, esports tournaments that you were holding in GameStop for a couple $100 to now a multi-million-dollar franchise, like assortment of franchises all towards one league. It's interesting to see where they're going, where the league itself is going, both in terms of viewership and structure. And what you've mentioned is, while it is very similar to how traditional sports work and the league itself should be similar to it, it is definitely not one and the same, and it should never be one and the same. Like the way that they produce and market and how all of the business operations run in, like, let's say the NFL, the CDL or any esport, that league should not be a carbon copy of it, because it is entirely, it's similar because it is professional sports,
competitive.
But the entertainment value, as well as, we are in uncharted territory, which is fascinating to me. And that's why I'll touch a little bit as well on what OpTic means to me. Is in the very beginning, I started watching like Scump and Nate Shot, doing their thing, but seeing them go from where they were all the way up to now, going to my first event just recently, I knew immediately, like, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. And growing up, watching it go from something that was pretty much like no money behind it. It was just a passion project amongst a lot of like-minded individuals trying to make something, to seeing where it is now. Like, esports is without question the future.
Oh yeah.
And growing up with it, like, it's just fun. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy researching it, playing. I love playing the games, even if the game itself isn't that good for that yearly cycle. But I want to be a part of it. And it's really cool to see where it's going. And it's only going to go up from here. Like, it's just a bunch of give and take, a bunch of trial and error from the sides of both the organizations, the publisher and Activision, the games themselves. There's so much trial and error that's going to be taking place over the next couple of years, but we got all the way here in about a decade. And this esports isn't going anywhere anytime soon, except up. So I could not be more excited to just watch that unfold. Yeah,
that's similarly, like, my first event was MLG Anaheim 2013, and this was Black Ops 2. This was right after Farico had won 4 tournaments back to back to back to back. Complexity beats them. OpTic, I believe, gets 3rd or maybe 4th at that event. And I met Nade Shaw, I met Hex, I met Scump. Like, I met a bunch of these guys that I've been watching for, at this time, about 3 years. Like 1 to 3 years, depending on the person. And then I didn't return to an event until Anaheim 2019. So within that 6 years, I put a little bit of videos on YouTube. Like, I have some stuff as far back as 2011. But it was really sporadic, terrible quality. And I didn't really know what I was doing. And to be fair, I mostly still don't know what I'm doing. But
Hey, you
going
look hard,
back
but it's
and
good.
being in Anaheim 2019, and I'm in the same Anaheim Convention Center. It may have been the same hall within the convention center. I don't remember entirely. But like walking into that same venue from Black Ops 2 and then again in Black Ops 4 and just seeing like how much bigger now it was just Call of Duty, whereas back then it was StarCraft, Call of Duty, and League of Legends. The sponsorship rotations, just the overall production of it. Like that event is the event that I was like, okay, like I need to be involved in this space somehow. Like I kind of knew it, but not like when you're actually there.
Yeah.
And then that got 10 times further reinforced at the Texas Major, which
Yeah.
you were obviously at.
Yeah.
For those listening, that's how we met. But that event like just furthered this thought of like, okay, I need to be involved in this space somehow. And it came from meeting people. I've been minorly recognized by like a couple of people, which was super cool. The first one was Zodiac recognized me from like the Create Supply Discord at Champs 2020 or 2021. I mean, World War II. World War II champs. Like he recognized me just from like Discord. And then the same thing basically happened to Texas. So it's like, I know I want to be involved in the space. It's a matter of navigating it and figuring out how and where I want to be within the space. So,
yeah. One thing that was cool is like you had mentioned and I had previously, the OpTic Texas Major, the OpTic Major, that was the first physical event that I've actually attended. Like I can't express the feelings that I got being there, like walking into that arena for the first time and just seeing the OpTic flag, the banners, the colors, the lights, the production, the amount of fans there. And, growing up and like a lot of people our age could probably relate to this, but if you were around for like, if you were big into esports, not many people understood it. And some people even like kind of bashed it, at least in my experience.
yeah.
Not many people were really about it.
It was kind of almost like shunned.
Yeah, because people didn't get it. And I liked it a lot, but none of my friends did at the time. So I kind of just kept it to myself for the most part. But then a couple of my friends and I, we decided to go to this major. It's around my hometown. Like I grew up in DFW. So finding out that all of OpTic moved to Frisco when they did, I was like, holy cow, they're like 30 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
Like that was cool in itself. But anyway, when I went there, I just felt at home. And the fact that I could go to any single person and talk shop about Call of Duty or esports dating back to Black Ops 2 and onward, like I was, as cheesy as it sounds, I was like, I'm home. It felt so right to be surrounded by so many people that had that same passion as me. And given that I'm already in this kind of field of media, working as a broadcaster, as a producer, things of that nature, I was like, you know what? Like, there's so many people here. It's just like, it's a celebration if not anything. So like, there's so many people to meet. Let's see what happens. Let's just meet some people. So I met you. It's actually kind of funny. Because me and my friends, we were sitting in the front of the general section in the middle. The Paris Surge series, dude. Me and my friends, we saw the lineup for that day, and we saw that series, and we were like, first off, if we were tuning in online, we would have not watched it.
This was Friday, right?
Yeah. Or no,
was it Friday? Because OpTic didn't play that day, or was?
Oh, I think it was. It was either Thursday or Friday.
I think it was Friday.
Yeah, it was Paris Legion versus the Seattle Surge. And we just decided before they walked out, we were like, you know what? Paris never gets gassed up by the fans. No one really has ever cared about Paris. I'm going to be honest, nobody really has because they haven't been a great team historically since franchising. We were like, let's gas them up. Let's see what happens. And when they walk out, we absolutely lose it. Even some of the players looked a little like, like we got some reception here. And it was really cool because it only reinforced my enjoyment that the people we were surrounded with, people I didn't even know going into that event, but we all just gelled so well. And we were all on like the same page in terms of how we wanted to cheer, what we wanted to do. Like, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but like, me and my friends, we kind of take a little bit of responsibility for that crowd. We were in like the perfect spot.
I think 100%. Like,
yeah, it was,
and I'd say that coming
so
from,
insane.
Like, I got the picture of,
I have it saved in my phone.
Yeah. I just looked over because like you said, it's Paris. This is a team that so far since franchising, they don't get a lot of love, and you guys were losing it. Like, you guys were going crazy. And so like I'm there. It's Saturday, if I remember correctly. OpTic's not playing that day, so I was thinking like I'll just use this day to kind of get some shots, some pictures, like play around. Like, I'm not really invested in any of the matches going on. And you guys were just like going wild in that front row of that section. And so like I just whipped over and got the picture. And as soon as I got the picture, I was like, I came over, I was like, hey, I just got a pretty like memeable picture of you. And you guys responded great. I didn't know what was gonna happen because like I'm definitely not a photographer by any means. But I was
you looked the part, I gotta say.
That's what official. I hear. I'm good at looking the part. And so like I come over, I'm like, I mean, I got to show you guys because like I just thought it was a funny shot, and like I could definitely see it being thrown on Twitter or something as a meme. And you guys responded great. You guys were just like, oh, you know, where are you gonna post that? Like, how do we get that picture? And the rest is history.
We were like, I think it was after game 1. And they lost pretty bad. It was actually pretty rough. Paris lost. But we decided just like, especially game 2, like if whoever's tuning into this, if you want to see just a crowd take over a match, watch Paris versus Surge in the OpTic Major.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it is hilarious to see overall like pretty docile crowd in the very beginning to all of a sudden in game 2 when Paris are down by like 2 or 3 rounds in Search and Destroy, and you hear "Let's go Paris," and then it's like it's so quiet, it's pretty like whatever. But then all of a sudden they start catching steam.
I say they kind of started feeling it.
By map 5, the whole crowd was like, "Let's go!" Like, come on, Paris! It was insane. Seeing even the casters being like, hearing a bit of a "Let's go Paris" in the crowd. Like even they were surprised, which I thought was hilarious. But after that, at first it started as me cheering them, ironically, but by the midway to the end of that series, like I'm rooting for Paris. Like I want them to do well. You get emotionally
invested at that point.
Yeah, and Temp is without question one of my favorite players. After that, like it was so cool to see him like super like jubilant that he finally won a series and having the whole crowd be like, you know, totally in his corner. It was so cool. I want to see Paris get a lot better for sure.
Trey responded well too. Seeing him, it's the first time I've like actually seen him play at an event. He has some like really good stage presence. He knows how to vibe with the crowd and whatnot. I was like, and I always respect that in players because some people don't do a good job of it. And some people like Zinni is one that obviously does a really, really good job. It's weird the level of engagement that you can kind of sell just by acknowledging the crowd.
Oh yeah.
And some players I think really, really get that. A lot of players that have played for OpTic really get that. Mostly because OpTic has always been such a
you have to
crowd.
If you're repping the green wall, you kind of have to.
Yeah. And some teams like Paris, you know, if you're not used to that level of fan engagement, maybe you don't know how to respond. Versus with OpTic, like it's coming every time. That was like the one thing that that blew my mind at that event was not only was it jam packed and completely sold out, but it's the first event I've been to where almost everybody in the crowd was an OpTic fan. Like most of the time OpTic, I said this in a different episode where it's like most of the time OpTic has the largest section within the crowd, but it was like there was nobody. There was some FaZe fans, probably had the next biggest, but like 99% of that crowd was OpTic. And like you said, like I was like, these are my people. And it's cool between both that and then doing the podcast, like meeting people and finding out where they got introduced, whether it was as far back as, for most people, the furthest back they go is about Black Ops 2. You had a lot of people that got introduced during like Jetpacks or Black Ops 3 and episode 3 of, I think it was 3 with Sean. Like his introduction to OpTic was right after Black Ops 3. So it's like he just knew this team that like made this awesome run, but then failed at champs. And then Infinite Warfare was the first game he actually watched all of it. So like for him, it wasn't this dynasty roster. It was almost like an underdog roster story in Infinite Warfare, that event that made their way to champs and then won it. So it's cool just seeing like where there's one guy I was sitting next to up in VIP that started watching in like 2007 or something.
Jeez.
Like, yeah, I've been meaning to get him on here, but it's hard to. I have a lot of people that are interested and a lot of people that I'm interested in having, but like actually scheduling it, I do it every 2 weeks, and then in between during those 2 weeks, I clip it into videos and TikToks and everything. And I don't like getting someone scheduled 4 months out.
Yeah.
And then like there's one, I recorded the episode. This was like episode 3 or 4. I think it was like 2 or 3 actually. I recorded the episode, and between the time of me recording it and it actually going up was like a 3-week gap.
Oh wow.
Which feels almost disrespectful to the guest to have that long of a period. So I don't know. We're learning. We're figuring out what works and what doesn't.
No, for sure. It's all give and take. One
other thing too, you said it was just crazy walking into the venue and just seeing the lights, the production, the flag and everything. I think the best, something that like needs to return is the banner like hallway. So like I don't know, you've probably seen videos. I have a video walking into Anaheim in Champs 2019, and they just have the banners of all the teams with the players, like every team that's won an event.
Oh wow.
There's just these giant, like 30-foot tall banners that have, the organization and then the players listed. And there's light, like OpTic has a green light over it. FaZe would have like a red light. And it's just like, soon as you go into that hallway, and then the trophies at the very end. But as soon as you're walking through that hallway, you're just like immersed into a complete, like everything outside of the venue just disappears. Like it literally doesn't exist.
Like you're just in the moment. You're in the
like it
you're
is
at the event.
The best entrance to like just get you into that mindset. And then once you go through that hallway, you go through a little doorway, and then there's the rest of the venue. You have all your sponsorship booths, all the seating, everything. But like that instant transportation into like the world of a Call of Duty event or any esport, I guess, is something I think the league is missing. But I've been to 2 events now since franchising. 2 since franchising, and there have been big improvements so far. So they're definitely headed in the right direction. I think a big part of it was getting Esports Engine involved, all the old MLG guys, and just bringing their 15 plus years of doing these events. Like they know the fan, they know what the people want. So just finding out, okay, what can we keep from what works, and then what can we do that's like special to Activision and Call of Duty and franchising.
That's one thing that'll definitely improve with time, because like you mentioned, you have these guys who've been doing it for 15 plus years that weren't actually a part of like the franchising process, like the transition, if you will. And it's weird because COD has had a much longer history than when franchising came to the CDL, when CDL was
Yeah.
incepted, or its
Well, it's like we're in
inception.
the third year, but Call of Duty tournaments have been going on since 2007.
Mhm.
Like, we have
Even
over
though
a
it's already,
decade of pre-franchise history.
yeah, even though there's, we're just starting like this whole CDL history. So much history has already preceded that, where we already know Crim is the greatest of all time. We already have our top fives. We already have the dynasties. We have the upsets, the underdog stories, the all of that. We've already got that. But now adding in all of this professional production and quality and money, it's like you mentioned, like they're figuring it out now, and they've had a couple of years to do that. But when it comes to making such a drastic transition with the facilities that you have to make your product, it's you're going to have some slip ups,
Mm-hmm.
and they're only going to get better because if they're smart, they're going to be listening to both fan involvement and also just hearing from the people that are putting on that presentation, the casters, the org owners, the players. As long as they keep them involved, who have already been around the block well before the people that are now financially sponsoring it, as long as that communication is always open, like there's no way it can get worse. Like it only can get better as long as
Yeah.
they're all working together for it. But when I did go to the OpTic Major, there was something kind of like, it wasn't as grandiose as you put how it sounded like Anaheim was. But when you walked into the venue and you turned to the right, you had two walls. One of them was basically a trophy cabinet with various event wins, controllers that were signed, photos of the older teams. And then on the left side, you had, it was like a bunch of different TVs with different major events
Okay.
that took
One
place.
thing that was like I thought was super cool on the little TV wall was that they were showcasing old stuff, like
Yeah.
they're like old gameplays and old tournaments. Like it's such a small thing, but like as a Call of Duty fan base, we grasp onto that nostalgia, especially with where Call of Duty is the last few years. We have like such a strong nostalgic grip on the golden era. So it helps to just showcase a little bit from those tournaments.
Yeah. It definitely goes a long way in doing that. But kind of circling around back to just the overall experience at the major and where I was at that point. I mean, the OpTic Major was what, about 2 months ago as of
Almost,
recording
yeah.
this?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I miss it. That was one of the most fun times
It's
of my
crazy like
life.
how fast, like it's been 2 months already, and I'm like, I feel like it was last weekend.
I'm still riding the high, honestly.
Yeah.
Like when I went there, I thought to myself, like, yeah, I'm going to have a good time. I'm here first to just hang with my friends and cheer on OpTic, a team that we've all loved for a long time. But I was also like the professional business side of me was like, let's see if I can talk to some people. Like let's see if
Yeah.
meet some people just around the industry. And I got to talking with, I met you, I met some of the guys from TST, met Alley Cat. I got to see some of the players, which was really cool. But Alley Cat actually is a big reason of how I found the people that I'm working with today and how I got my first opportunity into casting.
Okay.
So I introduced myself to her. I talked to her, asked her a few questions just to like see how she got there. Cause she's only like what, like
She's
21.
Yeah, she's
like
young.
she's in her very early 20s, and she just got into like being a professional like pundit for the CDL. So like that's fresh for her. So I know she just got here. So I know about out of all people, she'd be more than willing to help. And she was wonderful. She's a very nice person. And she recommended me to a few people. I think I Hold Shift was one of them. And so I reached out to a couple of different people that she recommended. And that got me all the way to a man named Gage for CGN. I casted their event 2 weekends ago. It was CGN Destin. But
Okay.
that was my first taste into finally casting or doing something as far as work goes for Call of Duty. And I don't know how to explain the feeling that I had doing that, man. It was so euphoric. Like finally getting into it and like putting your own stamp on it. Because for a long time, I've been thinking of like, what if I did do something with esports, with Call of Duty, or when I listen to people casting in my own mind, I'm kind of taking notes of like, ooh, he kind of transitioned that pretty well, or he passed that to his fellow caster really well, or that line was really cool, the analogy or the description. Like I found it fascinating to me as a broadcaster myself. And so getting to do that myself for the first time with a game series that I have grown up playing and watching, nothing like it. And I originally started doing broadcasting for sports. But the thing is, I didn't grow up watching sports. I didn't really care for them until I was about 16. But esports, from the second I watched it when I was just a kid, I was like, this is my thing. This is my thing. I love it. And so the big difference that I found doing sport or traditional sports and esports is with traditional sports, I'm kind of playing catch up because everyone else that's in my field has been growing up watching like Kobe Bryant or watching, like Tony Romo, big in Dallas.
I'm a big Kobe fan.
As you should be, of course.
Was born in Anaheim. Like I grew up in Southern California. Like my entire family, extended family, like everybody's a Lakers fan. So it's like from the moment I was born in '96, the year that Kobe was drafted, like I just had NBA and like Lakers basketball just like in my face at all times.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. I grew up, I was born in '98, moved around a little bit, but overall I was raised most of my life in Dallas. And so I got to see a few matches. I got to watch a few games of like Dirk playing, which that was crazy.
Phenomenal player.
Oh, like generational, one of a kind.
Yeah, generational talent. One of few players of his era that I think actually impacted and completely changed what you could do in that position.
Oh yeah, he changed the game. In his own way.
Without Dirk, I don't think we have Durant.
Yeah, or any of the big,
truly athletic big
players that we have now that are challenging for MVP. But getting back to what I was saying, I didn't grow up watching sports like that. And so I was playing catch up instead of, going into the back of my mind, thinking of like a childhood memory of watching these greats play. I'm researching it and being like, okay, so he was playing for this team at this time. And so like it was more of like doing homework.
Yeah.
If anything, which I enjoyed doing. I still enjoy doing it now.
Probably kind of exhausting too, though.
In a way. If you love it, ultimately, it's just fun, which I had a blast doing. And I started researching basketball actually right when the pandemic started. But we had nothing going on. So I was like, I'm going to dive headfirst into this. And now, like, I could talk my head off when it comes to basketball. I love that sport. But that's the cool thing about esports is because I did grow up with it. And I didn't really need to think when I was casting. I've been hearing it for so long. I've been watching it. I know what's good and what's not good. And so putting it into practice, being in that chair with the mic, like it was like a blur, honestly. It was so cool. And like, I just want to keep going. I got a taste and I don't want to stop.
It's weird because in all the things that my introduction to OpTic was when they were sniping and then esports. So there's certain things like I've thought about, like Hitch with vision, like camera guy, editing, production type stuff. There's, streamer, content creator, like all these different positions within content. One thing I've never really considered would be like casting. Although I think not now because I haven't played Call of Duty enough to understand, the right plays, the timings. Like I'm just unfamiliar with the last couple of games. But the games that I was really familiar in, I think I would have actually been probably a pretty decent caster. I think my strong suit in most games is analytical thinking.
Yeah.
And just breaking down and just doing nerdy things like actual timing of rotation, like how long does it actually take you to get from this position on the map to this position? Okay, well, like fastest route possible takes 5 seconds. Like breaking things down like that. I think in basically Black Ops 2 through Advanced Warfare, I probably would have been all right as a caster, but it's something I've never actually tried doing. Back when I was streaming on a more regular basis, I would do some like self-casting type stuff just for fun, just because it's always something fun to throw in there.
Yeah.
Let me ask this though, like, so you've obviously done some casting. Like, is there a particular thing within esports or Call of Duty that you are more interested in doing than others? Like, is casting like your number one, or?
I mean, casting is the way I see it right now. Casting is my way of getting on the map.
Yeah,
because I think I have a solid enough voice. I think I'm confident enough in what I know. I know what I know when it comes to COD.
yeah,
And I think, like you said, I think I'm actually pretty analytical when it comes to like actually breaking down and watching a match, seeing players make their plays and where they're like what routes they're challenging, how they're working together as a team. Like for the longest time, like when I was younger, I wanted to be a player. I wanted to be a pro player so bad, but family wasn't really interested in it or understand it at the time. But now, like I always played as like a main AR.
okay,
And so the way I approach that role is you're like the quarterback of the whole team. You're understanding exactly where everybody is on the map. You're reading what places that your enemy team is challenging or where they're prioritizing. And you're trying to almost play a game of chess with the other main AR, seeing what parts of the map that you need to control, what vantage points can you exploit to give your team that advantage in whatever situation you're in. And so when it comes to that, I already think that way.
yeah.
And so when I'm casting and I'm watching people do that in real time, and I'm not the one responsible for making those plays, I feel like I know what they could or should be doing. And that's the benefit of me also going to school and broadcasting, is I can also convey that in a way that
Say like, you know,
sounds, you can understand it, but it also sounds like, I don't know, it's not the right word, but like intelligent, I guess. But that kind of makes it sound kind of arrogant, which I don't mean it to. It's like concise, but informative.
I think like, I mean, I definitely know what you're saying. I think most people watching follow esports enough to know what you're saying. So I, when I was playing competitive, was a main AR. Now I probably play like more of a flex than anything. I think one thing I've never really thought about is like, as a main AR, you're typically a little bit of a slower player than, you know, your SMGs and even your flex. I think the benefit of that, like I've never thought of the AR necessarily as the quarterback, but like that's definitely what they're doing in my opinion. And I think it's because they're playing a little bit slower. They just have a couple of extra seconds to like see all the angles, see where the positions are. They have an extra second to look at the clock for a minute, whereas like your entry sub is just flying.
Yeah, it's
like hats off to those. Like I'm sure Shotzi and Simp in these top SMGs are also looking at all those things just because their brain's moving that fast.
And they're that good.
Yeah, and they're just that good. But I think the benefit of the AR role is that you do get that extra moment to think. And it really comes in, especially when you have like clutch factor situations. And, you know, flying around, if you can do all the math and calculate it all, like people talk about Scump and Domination, how he can just calculate it like instantly. Like, yeah, that's beneficial. But in a clutch moment, having that extra moment to like pause and say, okay, wait, this is what we need to do, because in the long run, this is what's going to win the round or the match or map, whatever. I think as a flex player now, I can still do that, but I'm also engaged just a little bit more, that I almost get more information. Because especially as an AR, especially in Black Ops 2, where like anchoring and hardpoint was way different than it is now. Like you'd be playing like Slum's hardpoint in P2 to like the P3-4 rotation. I'd leave 30 seconds through
And you
P2
had to.
because I'm like, it's one, it takes that long to get across the map, and two, like if their anchor is also doing this, I know I'm going to be in at least one, probably two engagements with him before I really win the position. It's like by being a flex player, your timing just gets to be, I got to be involved in P2 for just a little bit longer, or I can bail early with my AR and go help.
Yeah.
So, and
That's
then
one thing.
my main buddy I have been playing with for the last few years, like he's definitely more of a objective SMG player. So like I can direct him if I need to. I can let him do his thing, but like if we need to go, I'll be like, hey, give up. Come on. We'll make up all this time by getting a perfect hold on the next hill.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about the role that I play, just like with my friends, or if I run eights, or if I try and get into GBs again, like especially when I'm casting, or if I'm just watching CDL with my friends and I'm watching the mini map and I'm seeing, like, say they're playing a hard point and like the fight's on the hill and it's 3v3, but then you see two guys going for a rotation and it's like a money hill or it's like a crucial rotation for both teams. And like the casters aren't even talking about it. The gameplay, they're not even showing that. But in my mind at that moment, I'm like, that is the most important gunfight of the match so far. Yeah. They're not even on the point. Sometimes when it comes to hard point, like obviously the more time you have on the hill, you win. Like you have to
getting to a position where you can hold that time.
Exactly.
Sometimes it requires stuff that's happening basically off camera.
Yeah. And that sometimes is the most important moment of the match.
That to me is like
that kill can sway the next 100 points.
Yeah.
In your favor or against you.
See that, and not everybody what I loved about that is the first thing you said is like you're looking at the mini map. Because like I tell everyone, I'm like, I look at the mini map more than I look at anything else on the screen. Like the reaction time, getting kills, like that's all just second nature. That's just happening. My eyes are constantly looking at the mini map and looking at player positioning because there's so much stuff that gets overlooked, like that one gunfight, that one series of kills. And it's interesting now because like right before this, I was telling you, like I haven't been playing Call of Duty much, mostly been playing Halo. There is no minimap in Halo. And I never grew up on Halo. I've never been good at Halo. I could hold my own in SWAT because it was just flicking and reaction time.
Oh, dude, I was cracked at SWAT.
Yeah, but like in core modes, I was trash. The higher time to kill, like understanding how certain weapons work in certain situations and different weapon combos and how to exploit those. So it's been really fun learning how to play competitive Halo and what things I can bring from Call of Duty and what things I can't. And something CTF is, for me, I think it's always been my strongest game mode. So playing CTF in Halo, like I bring out like Coach Miles, where it's like I'm like, okay, everybody shut up. Here's what we're doing. And I like to think most of the time it makes a pretty good impact. Not always, but enough of the time for me to keep doing it. And something I do in CTF a lot is like I overextend quite a bit because one of the most common things in Halo is like you get the flag and you just throw it off the ledge and then you D up to get that return. But like the important part is preventing them from getting the cap. So I don't know, just like calling out when it's a good time to do that, when you need to, force certain spawns to get a really efficient flag pull. So I don't know, it's definitely been really fun. I think it's one of the reasons I've been having so much fun. One thing I've learned about myself over the years is the most fun I have in any FPS game is learning it and seeing that growth. Call of Duty, I probably have stuff to learn now because I haven't played it consistently, especially competitively for a couple of years. But I played it for a decade straight. Like, there's not a ton to learn at this point.
Yeah, it's just refreshing yourself on what the maps are, the guns, the meta.
New gun metas.
You don't just forget
the core
how
of the
play.
game. Yeah, I'm like, it's... And then it's frustrating when you're playing against people that maybe are a little bit newer or don't necessarily think the same way. And then you see them doing things that, maybe they thought it was a good idea, but me looking at it, I feel like it was a really dumb decision or something, or a very obvious play that's not happening.
Yeah,
So
that's one thing that I've grown to learn over the years, because I didn't always think this way. Obviously, I've grown up and matured, and I've just approached things in different ways. But for the longest time, I thought COD itself, even in the esports, it was just fight the point, get the kills. That's all. That's it. There is so much more
So
happening
much more.
beneath the surface, especially when it comes to being the main AR or whoever's calling the shots.
Yeah, whoever the
during the game.
IGL
You
role
are
is.
paying attention to so much happening around you, with your teammates, your enemies, the map, whatever. Like, when it comes, like, when I'm playing alongside my friends, like when we're going on rotations, like I'm factoring in how much time is left, how much both the teams have score wise. Are we out fragging them? Are we just better, or are we worse? Like, do we have to play around the fact that they're just winning gunfights? Do we need to make a smarter play? Because in some instances, if you're just like frying these kids, then yeah, you can just 4-man rush A on control and just be like, we're gonna win it, and then we're gonna get the point.
We're just better.
But if it's a pretty even fight, or if anything, even if you're not fragging and they are, then you have to find a way to craft a play around that and utilize the things that are in your favor and try and hinder those things that are against you. And that's something I've learned a lot lately, especially playing as a main AR and watching the greats play and hearing how they describe the game. It's not just pick a lane, run as fast as you can, and immediately chow and die, respawn, do the same thing. There is so much more happening within something that is veiled as a casual shooter.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize.
I think the very beginning of that, like if I'm someone that's brand new to the game, like in Search and Destroy, or really in any game mode, if you're doing a rotation, whenever you see a player start that rotation and then to let the enemies go by without engaging, like for anyone that's new, that's a perfect example of like just knowing when to choose your gunfights and knowing like the outcome of let them go, because maybe now it'll help you flip spawns. Yeah. I love seeing those plays. I do them all the time, where it's like you just let them go, or like, you know, we'll let one guy pass and then shoot the second guy and hope for a 2-piece. And like you're calling this out the whole time as well, so maybe you get some assistant in there, and then take that 10 steps further, and now you're probably like where you're at, where you're just looking at everything like that. And that's how I like, especially like in Halo, there was a play like that at was it Kansas City just now? I think it was Oddball Live Fire. Lucid had a play like that. He had the sniper. He was up by sandbags, and he let 2 guys go, sniped the second guy in the back of the head. They were able to team kill the first guy, and like it won them the game. That play, I think, is what won them the game.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been seeing a lot more. And you just attested to that with Halo, but I'm seeing that in COD, especially this season, is trigger discipline.
Yes.
And ninja diffuses. It has become the meta to not immediately shoot someone when you see them. And like the best players already did that, but now it's like normal to not immediately just challenge the gunfight. It's to see, okay, he's here. There's a high probability that his teammate's here, but I don't know where he is yet. So the other guy that I'm seeing right now can't see me. So I'm going to play this out a little bit, see if I can get some more information, getting that to my teammates and proceeding from that. And then when it comes to like Search and Destroy, everybody's ninja diffusing. Like more often than not, if you look away from the bomb site for 10 seconds or more, you better be praying that they did not already hop it, because more than likely they did, and you look like an idiot. But like everybody has been ninja diffused at some point. Literally everybody has been ninja diffused.
I'm like, having not watched as much COD, I do like hearing that, because that's something I feel like we used to do, and then we just kind of stopped doing it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was just because the way the games were played or just the way the players adjusted, but for a solid few years, ninja diffuses I feel like didn't really exist.
Very rare. I can only remember one. It was from Black Ops 2.
Black Ops 2.
I think it was
Karma,
Nameless. Or no, it was Karma. Yeah,
it was on
I
Meltdown.
remember Nameless was hype. Yeah,
it was like
that was
a
back when he was on
1v3,
Envy,
and he did it.
I think.
Yeah, he did it against Envy, I think, or he did it against Rambo.
Yeah,
It's probably like one of the most infamous ninja defuses in Call of Duty history.
It's because there were 3 entrances. It was a 1v3, and every single one of them had their entrance.
The center entrance.
Yep. And he somehow perfectly weaved his way through the blind spots.
Well, the 2 side entrances too, like there's the main entrance, you can go left or right, and then the 2 side entrances you can also go. So he just got like the timing or something.
Timing.
Yeah.
That's stuff that you can't plan for either. There's like, that's the thing with COD and most esports, or pretty much all esports. There's just some stuff that you can't plan for.
I mean, that's why we have COD timing is notorious across any FPS game.
Because
like
it's
you're
not
playing
even
Valorant, it's COD timing. You're playing Battlefield, it's COD. Like it doesn't matter what the FPS game is. Like the industry has decided it's called COD timing.
Yeah, because you can't train yourself to like, wait an extra second to chow. Because even if you wait an extra second, then he was probably going to show up in 1.5 seconds from now.
Yeah,
like there's just some stuff that like losing off of something like that is tough. But then when you watch back the VOD and you see like there's nothing you could have done, like
there's a big
it's one of those
factor.
things that's like exactly. And that's the cool thing about COD as a viewing experience is that while you do have your dynasties and your best teams and your underdogs, like you get a hot run of form, a lucky play, a really fortunate nade, or a random wall bang that could flip the entire series on its head.
Yeah.
If you get momentum off of that. And it's
like
really captivating to watch.
That's something I think that, that in-game leader role brings to, like, this is something I've noticed myself doing. This is something I've really noticed Formal brings to the table, both through, his joining of OpTic Halo and just seeing what people that have been following Halo much longer than I have said about him joining that team and what he brings. And then also hearing things that Dashie has said about his influence on Dashie as a player. Yeah. About things like, okay, when you guys are warming up, like, I don't remember where the clip was or what it was in, but it was like going into the event, like they're warming up, and it's like, even if you ask your teammate, like, how you feeling? And he says, oh, I'm doing good, but you can see that, like, he's having an off day and he's just lying to you. Like, you have to be able to adapt and be like, okay, well, like, what can I do in the game to, like, make sure that off day he's having doesn't affect his play style? Like, knowing, okay, when do we need to bring things down? When do we need to hype each other up? Like, when do we need to bring the energy? Yeah. Knowing how to look at all these different situations, knowing who's fragging. Like, something I've done a lot if I'm in game chat playing, like, ranked Halo is we'll be halfway through a CTF game. I'll bring up the scoreboard. I'll be like, guys, we are outslaying these guys in every possible way. We've just let them get overshields and rockets 3 times. Soon as we shut that down and we start taking control of those power weapons, the game's ours. Yep. Like, we're outslaying by a mile. We're just getting bad timing on the important stuff. Yeah. And then what's really cool is, regardless of other people having mics in, is when you see the players still adapt to that, and then we end up winning. It's like just being able to see that stuff and call it out and just bring some extra attention to it. And then when it works, like, there's nothing more satisfying than that. And like, I'm like, call the right play. That's something that, and it's hurt me too. Like, my timing on Halo spawns isn't great yet. I think it's decent, but like in Call of Duty, that thing was my strongest suit in CTF was I could just call out spawn. Like, I was just paying attention to the clock at all times. Yeah. Like, I'd see 2 go dead. I'd be like, all right, those 2 guys are back up. Okay, your 3rd guy's coming up in 3 seconds. He's spawning over here. All right, your 4th guy's going to be spawning back garage in 2 seconds. So I don't have that quite down in Halo yet, and it's definitely hurt us a couple times. Like, I'll call the wrong spawn. I'll call the right spawn but the wrong time. And if you do that, sometimes you call the right spawn at the wrong time, and then they end up not spawning there because you influenced it early. Yeah. Like, you but when you get that right, like, that gives you such a big advantage. And I've had a couple times, like yesterday, the new season just dropped. So I was doing all my placement matches, and we were playing CTF on Aquarius, and I saw the way the map was set up, and I got the spawn timing like perfect. I pre-dynamoed the spawn, and the guy literally spawned up as my grenade hit the ground, and then his teammate spawned up right behind him. So I was like an instant 2-piece off the spawn, basically a free flag cap. And I was like, man, when it works, like when you get that timing. Oh yeah. It's so satisfying. And then equally just knowing that it probably frustrated them.
Oh, it definitely
like playing
did.
off of that, like, oh yeah, he's
imagine
pissed.
imagine
He's
just
chalked for
spawning
the
and then
next
getting
like
fragged.
2 kills.
I'd be so pissed.
Yeah.
But
So
one cool thing about like I like I said, I didn't always think as analytical as like a main AR. Like I didn't assign myself a role for the longest time. But then I started playing with 3 of my friends, which I mean, you met them at the major. We kind of just like we were like the 4 of us. We want to squad up. We just want to like play league play, just have a good time because we've all known each other for years.
yeah.
And so we were just like, okay, who does what? And I'm like, like it was Cold War at the time. And for some reason, the 74 you and me just did not agree. I did not understand.
There's certain games where I'm like,
gun.
I can't play an SMG role. I just can't.
Yeah. I frag with the MP40. I'm disgusting on Bocage. Like, put that in my hands, I will play like a BZ in his prime. Just saying. No, anyway.
All right.
But at the time, like the meta was either like the M4 or the Krig. And that Krig in my hands, bro, that's like one of my favorite ARs of all time. But I was like, okay, I'll play a main AR role. And then I started watching and paying attention to what the main ARs are doing in CDL. Clay is my favorite player of all time. He was the first clip I saw, and seeing him like get up and, you know, like do the Superman and like show passion, like that's what hooked me. And so when it comes to how I play, like I like thinking super analytical and playing it like a chess match, but also being like the lead hype guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my teammate is going off, I will hype you up.
Oh,
like you are going to feel that. But it's really cool to see that like last season or last game, like I was just starting to figure out what that role really means and what you're doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
But now going into this year with a lot more experience and a different way of kind of approaching it as not specifically just playing as a main AR, but what a main AR has to do in the map. Like reading the map in a different way.
What your influence is.
It has made me such a smarter player. Like Search and Destroy, love playing the maps or like love playing the game. But I used to be like the most afraid person when it came to like 1v2s, 1v3s, 1v4s. I'm like, yeah, I'm not winning this. Now, like the way I read the map, the way I kind of think of timing and watching players clutch in, you know, when they're at the highest level, like seeing what they do, just like waiting that extra second or, you know, hitting a door and then going somewhere else, but to like throw them off and think you're one place, but you're not. Like,
see,
I approach it so much differently and I'm clutching more than I think I ever have. Still not a GOAT by any chance, but like,
see, what's weird on that so much is like,
so cool.
I feel like I have similar tendencies. Just, I think we play a similar role. We approach the game similarly and just playing for so long. But like seeing where I learned these tendencies is what's interesting for me. So like two things that I learned entirely from my days sniping in Modern Warfare 2. And like one thing that I can run for 30 hours straight and just not get bored is just like sniper 1v1s. Like I cannot get bored of them. And the 2 things that I always equate to those that I've learned as a player is putting pressure on. There's certain friends back in the day that they weren't bad, but if I just fired a bunch of shots in their direction, it would throw them off. Especially like if I knew that I was a little bit better player, which in my friend group I usually was. There was like probably 1 or 2 people that were like as good at sniping as me. So like we'd run into these 1v1s or these like private free-for-all matches, and the player that I knew was worse, I wouldn't even try to hit them. I would just get shots in their direction. And then once I saw them start panicking, okay, now I'm going to land the shot. Like I'd pay attention and make sure to put in that extra moment to land the shot.
That mental.
Yeah. So like that's something that transitioned into regular guns and competitive, just like knowing when to put pressure on, like when to pre-fire a bomb site maybe to just buy my team an extra 2 seconds to stop them from planting it. And maybe an SMG can come around the back flank for an extra second. Like learning that. And then what I call threat analysis, which came from running 3, 4, 5-man free-for-all sniper lobbies, is just knowing which of my friends was the better sniper and then going, okay, like if I'm guy A and guy B is just as good as me, but guy C is significantly worse, if there's the 3 of us, I know I can ignore C because he's not as good, but I need to kill B. Like just figuring out who do I need to engage and put more pressure on because that's the more important kill. And then I could probably beat out the other guy because he's just not as skilled. Like that's something that transitioned to regular guns and competitive as well. That's one of the things like a lot of the COD community misses persistent game lobbies. One of the things I don't like about not having persistent game lobbies is like I can never learn the people I'm playing against because they switch after every match.
That's a shame. I hate that that's a thing.
Yeah, like one of the things I used to love was just like learning, like playing 3, 4, 5 games with these random players on both your team and enemy team and just like learning little nuances and okay, well, like this player has done this every single time we've played this map. Like I can do this different. Like he's beaten me 3 times on like first rotation. Let me learn from that and pick a different angle or pick a different timing. So I don't know, but it's interesting learning or seeing where I've learned the same tendencies, but from completely different approaches to the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always cool just like breaking things down like that, especially with other like-minded analytical thinking players.
Yeah. That's the cool thing is that's also one thing I've learned a lot is knowing when to make adjustments mid-game.
Yeah.
Because it's so like I used to just like same game plan, even if it wasn't working, just like keep shouting the hill. Surely it's going to work eventually.
Like, especially if the other team is out fragging you. Like, okay, you at some point throughout the match, hopefully sooner than later, you have to make an adjustment of, okay, like we can't 4-man stack this hill because they're outgunning us. So what can we change to give ourselves an advantage? And if we do that enough times, maybe we can warm up and they'll start falling down and now you're out fragging them. Like those little mid-game adjustments. And they're super satisfying as well. Like just like the timing of spawns, like when it works. The worst though is when you make that adjustment too late and everything's headed in the right direction, but you just didn't have enough time on the clock. And you still lose the round or the map.
That's the thing as well is it's the best and the worst thing is that even if you do everything right from a mental perspective and you approach, the objective the right way, you're working together as a team. But if you just stop firing for 1 second or you didn't check one corner, it's like a Jenga tower. Like it all just falls down. Yeah. Like it's crazy to see just one can change the whole thing.
That oddball live fire map, like that's something the casters were talking about is where Lucid was playing with that sniper. Somebody should have checked that spot. I think it was OpTic versus United. And it's like, they saw the time. They knew they had to put pressure on the ball, but they had enough time to check that spot. But it's like they got too panicky almost, and they went for the ball pressure first, and like it fell apart for them and allowed OpTic to ultimately win, which maybe they win anyways, but they could have played it just a smidge better and given themselves a better chance.
Yeah, it's ironic that game modes like that, sometimes the best play isn't the right play.
Yeah.
Like getting more objective time, getting yourself more points on the board is actually the wrong play.
At that moment.
Like sometimes when you're like, when it comes to like hard point, when you're on like a dead hill and you're just like, getting rotations for that next hill sometimes is more important than getting the last 10 seconds.
Well, yeah, you sacrifice 10 seconds to make up with 40 or 50 versus those 10 seconds and maybe they only get 20 on the next hill.
Yeah.
The long
communication is so important for stuff like that. And that's probably my favorite thing as well. Because I would like to think that at least when I'm, gaming with my friends or if I'm just like playing on League play, like I'm very vocal. I like to like call out strats, or if someone else has a strat, I'm more than like someone tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. Like I'm not just going to be the guy that says, "Hey, you do this." But if someone tells me to do it, I'd be like, "Nah." Like
that's something that
if you have an idea, I will do it, bro.
That's something that Warzone taught me. I hate Warzone. I haven't played it in probably a year. I haven't played it consistently in probably like a year and a half. but I'm a good Call of Duty player. I'm a really bad Warzone player. And something that it taught me was just like, okay, guys, what do you guys need from me? What do I need to change? And now I take that into everything where I'm like, if I know that I'm decent and I can make the adjustments, sometimes I just need some feedback. I'm like, okay, like what can I do differently to help you and help us? And I'm completely open to any sort of feedback, whether that's I need to play more aggressive, I need to slow it down, maybe I need to stop trying to be an in-game leader at certain moments.
Yeah,
Because
and
maybe
sometimes peel back.
maybe I'm making the wrong plays. So
Yeah.
that's something Warzone taught me, which is odd because I feel like Warzone hasn't taught me much. You mentioned Clayster.
Yeah.
What was that?
No, keep going.
Oh. So you mentioned Clayster's your favorite player of all time. He has repped the green wall a few times throughout his career. Who is your favorite current member of OpTic, and who's your favorite all time? I'm assuming the all time would be Clay. But if it's then just favorite current and favorite all time member of OpTic.
All right, I'll start with current. I think it's tough because I love all four of them, and each one of them brings their own unique skill set.
Let me mention, it does not have to be a pro. It can be anybody within the organization.
Oh, shoot. Oh, you're making this question a whole lot harder now. Honestly, it might be Hitch. I love what he did for himself. He joined in.
I love when people say Hitch.
The big ascension, he was just the camera guy. And seeing him grow from just the camera guy to like director of like production when it comes to OpTic, like his toes are in, or his hands are in everything when it comes to like the content that is made now. And it's so cool to see not just him succeeding in that role, but bringing his two best friends who were doing like regular traditional jobs. Now they get to do that too, like as a full-time job, like George and Blake, like their vibe, what they're doing at TST. It's one of my favorite things. Like I got to meet all three of them. All of them are so chill.
Okay. They carried the Texas Major.
Oh, they killed it. They absolutely killed it.
It was already hype, but I feel like if you remove TST from that equation, there's a pretty big fall off in the energy. They brought so much to the table.
I mean, it wasn't hard to just keep going because we were doing good enough. We just needed to pass the torch.
Yeah. Hitch especially. Hitch is like one of my. Anytime someone says that he's their favorite person, I love it. My introduction to him was on the Sticks Live in Advanced Warfare. So like I didn't even mean to, but like I somehow watched his entire growth into OpTic. I definitely love at any given moment he could also be my favorite person.
Yeah, it's just really cool to see him go from something behind the camera to heavily featured in front of the camera and creating his own brand on top of the fact that he's part of OpTic.
So there's a video he uploaded 5 years ago where he is reminiscing on him joining OpTic with Blake and George. Have you seen that video? It's like 30 or 40 minutes long.
I have, and that
is one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, it's one of the big inspirations of why it was one of the dominoes that led me to this conversation, honestly. Like if I didn't watch videos like that or seeing people get into this field, get into OpTic, get into esports, get into COD, and become something bigger than they ever anticipated, and all the while they're just doing what they love. Like if I didn't see that and get inspiration from it, I would have never gone to an event, would have never met you, would have never have tried to pursue this whole thing in the first place. I would have just thought, oh, it's cool, but then maybe just fall out of it one day and just move on to other things. Like, yeah, seeing his story, and like there's a couple of other people that have come through the Call of Duty League as well that I draw a lot of inspiration from, at least their career paths. Hitch is definitely one of them. I remember that video.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. And then, so would he be your current or your all time? or both.
I wouldn't say all time. I will say current, yes. And if I have to go with player, I would say I could flip, like, dude, it's any one of the four. I can't narrow them down. I could just break all four of them down if I had to, but I'd say all time COD or OpTic player. It might be Clayster, just because, like, when I first started getting into the league, all I knew was, like, I knew OpTic because I had watched them since they were sniping, since Hex was doing top 5 kill cams of the week on Machinima. Like, that's how old my fandom goes for OpTic. I knew them as a sniping team. Yep. I could do it. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to disrespect the legend here. But, like, his intro is burned into the back of my brain because I used to watch that
top 5 kill cams of the week.
The time.
Yes, sir. Yes.
He said nasty a lot. He said nasty a lot.
I caught myself in Halo yesterday. Our random teammate in ranked was actually nasty with the sniper. And I was like, dude, he just got a nasty 2-piece over at B. I was like, where? And I was like, holy shit, that just came from like 12 years ago.
You had to dust off the cobwebs. The cobwebs of your brain.
I just said it. I didn't know where it came from. And I was like, did I really just? Okay.
Yeah, like no one would get that in the moment, but you say that later. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I will say, when I first started getting into professional Call of Duty and watching it, Clay was the first guy I watched. He was the most entertaining player for me at the time. Then I started going into seeing OpTic.
Was that Ponytail Clay?
That was
like a year or two later.
Ponytail Clay was that was back when he got the, I think it was 1v3 or 1v4 on Raid with a sniper.
Yeah.
That was back when he played for, it's such an obscure team. But when he went to Complexity, that's when he cut his hair.
It was oh no, I want to figure it out.
I know, but it's such an obscure team. I couldn't even tell you his teammates. But when the end of the Black Ops 2 season happened, and OpTic were going in a new direction, and it was just, to my knowledge, it was Scump and Nadeshot, and that whole drama just finally ended. That was the craziest thing as well. That drama between the two at the time.
Yeah.
Scump and Nadeshot, when Scump went to Envy for like 2 weeks. That was insane. But he came back to OpTic, but OpTic was going through such wholesale changes. Like at one point, Parasite was on the team. I think Dito, Ricky.
Yeah.
Like they were trying out so many players.
You had like OpTic Nation as well. So you had 2 full squads.
Yeah.
You had Killa, you had Bose, Ricky, like.
Yeah. You had a lot of the old Farico team.
Yeah.
But whenever they announced the final roster, and it was Scump, Nadeshot, Embos, and Clayster at the time for the beginning of the Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I found out that Complexity dropped Clayster, I was like, OpTic, please.
Yeah.
Not only is he the nastiest AR in the game right now, but like favorite player on the favorite team. Like, come on, it's a dream matchup. And then it happens, and then he's there for the whole season. They win X Games, which, by the way, second favorite tournament I've ever watched, for sure.
Is first the Texas Major?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, because that was like at the time peak fandom. Because that's when I was still like, that was my youngest time into the scene. Seeing them, that was the first event I watched OpTic win, and it was an X Games gold medal, which was so surreal. But I gotta say, Clayster was probably my all-time favorite.
I think was Clay playing for not E United, but was it United when he got the raid like 1v3 or 1v4?
I feel like it starts. I thought it said something like United.
I feel like it's close.
It started with an I. Maybe it started with an I.
I don't know.
Like,
it just
came I want to say Illusions, but I don't know why I'm saying Illusions.
I know it wasn't strictly business.
No, but that team was awesome.
It wasn't like I'm thinking of these older organizations. It wasn't Denial. It wasn't Strictly Business. It wasn't Rise Nation. I want to say it was.
Denial.
I want to say it was like United, something like that. What was the old Black Ops 2 United team?
I'm looking this up. I have to. You'll find it, but yeah, there's just, I don't know, just. Clay's just that mixture of like passion, entertainment, and just raw talent, as well as the leadership. And like seeing him on my favorite team just kind of cemented that. And whenever they dropped Bose after champs and picked up Proofy, that is my favorite OpTic team of all time. I still love Bose, but like Proofy, Clay,
I love
Proofy
is
best
he
team.
has the best vibes like ever, maybe.
It was a vibey team, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think my favorite OpTic roster of all time might be. I mean, I want to say Modern Warfare 3 because of the players, but I know I didn't watch enough for it to really count.
I mean, the league didn't really exist at the time.
But I would say just because of how impactful it was, would just be like the 60-50 roster of Merc, Scump, Nate, and Big T.
Yeah, that was pretty iconic. Dude, it's crazy how many influential players and like not just players. Well, I guess people that only played
Unite
for OpTic.
Gaming. It might have been Team Caliber.
I think it was. No, it was definitely Unite because after Complexity, he went to TK, and then.
But before Complexity was Unite,
and then he went. Yeah, it was definitely Unite.
Yeah, he played on VVV. God, I haven't heard that name in years.
I just went back 10 years.
Yeah. All right.
That's crazy.
So you've been to one event. Have you been to any events since then, or no?
I wish.
I guess. I guess the only event. Well, unless there was like some small local stuff, but the only one we've really had was Minnesota.
Yeah, I haven't been able to just yet.
I'm gonna try to make it champs. I don't know if it's gonna happen. We will see. It all depends on where champs is.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in like Anaheim or something.
If it's Anaheim, not LA, not USC. If it's Anaheim, it'll be the vibiest event since the league's formation.
Yeah,
like only to be rivaled by the Texas Major and Major 5 in Cold War. But like as far as vibes, I think if champs is at Anaheim, it'll definitely hard carry.
I think. Shoot, I was about to say something. I definitely want to go to champs if I can, but oh yeah, I remember now. I think it goes without saying. I think Texas is going to have a major every season.
They have to at least for the next few years, while other organizations build up their fan base more.
Mm-hmm.
But just from a viewership standpoint and from growing a league, like you kind of have to.
Mm-hmm. With the crowd involvement at that place. Like, people are saying it's either the greatest COD crowd of all time or it's tied with IW champs.
Which is one event. That's probably like the number one event I wish I was at. Was 2017 champs. From the more I've heard about it, I think 2017 champs is the number one crowd. Just hearing like players' recollection of the roar when OpTic was playing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite think that Texas matched that, but I think it was close. I think it was very close.
There's definitely nothing more I could have done. That's for sure.
Yeah, my voice was gone like the first day.
Like I have witnessed a lot of cool sports moments in my life physically present there, and I'm grateful for that. Like I have never celebrated harder for anything than seeing OpTic win and being surrounded by my friends. Like I probably couldn't even tell you exactly what happened when I won. I'm pretty sure I blacked out. Like I just started hugging anybody I saw. We were losing our minds. The cool thing was like where we were in the crowd is we were, like I said at the very beginning of this, we were in the middle at the beginning of the general section. So there's like this huge gap of space.
Yeah.
So like something cool happens, you can stand up and like
had a
walk
lot of
around
room to get hype.
Yeah. And that place right there became like a hub for everybody. So when that happened, everyone just rushed there if they couldn't get through. And like, it was such a celebration. It was insane.
Having, watched for so long and seeing all these things happen. And then like I had tickets to go to the Huntsman opener. Like I had booked my flights and everything. And then obviously COVID. So like basically 3 years of not winning.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they won, the fact that I was almost going to go to the Halo Anaheim DreamHack event, but then they canceled just because Anaheim's the easiest for me to go to. Like they canceled it for spectators. So I was like, you know what? I guess I'll go to Texas. Like I can't afford it, but also I've been waiting 3 years to go to this event. Mm-hmm. And then they win at their own major. Like you could not, and in the dominant fashion that they won.
Reverse
sweeping phase, 6-0ing phase.
Dude.
Like
Craziest
you literally
reverse
could not write a better story.
It was literally like a fairy tale the entire way through.
Well, and especially when you consider the last time they had played against them in that caliber was Anaheim, like 1,000 days prior or something, and it also resulted in a reverse sweep. Like,
is there a higher power? Because you'd question it after watching that event. Like,
yeah,
it was so perfect.
Being there,
I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Yeah, like it's just moments like that where I'm like, I just want to go to like every event. Yeah. All right, let's ask if you could join OpTic in any way, shape, or form. Broadcaster, camera guy, pro player, coach, like whatever. What would you want to do for them and why?
I mean, there's a lot of things I would like to do. The dream was to be a player, but I've really enjoyed what I do now as far as like being a media personality. My goal, if I could be on OpTic, would be a content creator, but also being maybe like when it comes to Hitch is kind of doing this already, but like being the go-to guy for interviewing OpTic players. Like you saw the Hot Ones spin off that they did.
I want more of the Hot Ones thing. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I realized is that I would really want Hitch to be the host of the show, which means that he's going to have to learn how to endure some spicy pain.
Yeah. He'd have to get used to that real quick, or they might have to rotate hosts.
The production value on that, by the way, was insane.
It was very good. I was surprised they were able to do it and not get like fined by like Hot Ones, but they were totally about it actually.
Well, Sean Evans responded to the tweet and just said like, "Hey, like good job, like your guys' production was insane."
Which was that was cool to see.
I love Sean.
They were able to do
such a phenomenal host of the show.
I take a lot of notes from that guy.
Yeah,
about how to steer a conversation, keep people engaged.
Presence. Yeah,
like when it comes to like just how you present yourself, when it comes to whether you're making a video or you're doing an interview, what have you, like.
Probably the number one thing that I love about him,
such a big one,
that he does on Hot Ones is his reaction. Like he just matches the guest's spice tolerance. If they handle spicy food very well, he won't bat an eye. But if they're showing that they're in pain, he'll also be in pain. Like he just matches it perfectly.
And that's like one of the biggest things for sure as an interviewer, like making your guests feel comfortable. And like that you relate to them, even if you don't actually, but like making them feel comfortable to where they can feel they could be themselves. Yeah. That is an art in itself, especially when he's doing it with like celebrities that have to put on the facade that like they're, whatever.
Yeah, whatever like,
they're. The Hot One, the wings and his questions tear all of that down. It's such a masterful display.
It is, I think, the greatest like YouTube show in history, and there have been some good ones, but Hot Ones I think just brings the heat. All right, so content creator / like a kind of Hitch related position of content creator, but also heavily involved in the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, if I could take someone's job, it'd be Hitch's, but I would never. He's too perfect for it.
Obviously, you met some people at the event, some players, people like TST. If you can meet anybody within OpTic, who would you want to meet? And does your answer change if you're able to actually spend some time and like hang out with them for a day versus just meet them for like a quick, hey, what's up?
For a quick, hey, what's up? It'd probably be, man, I like this question. It's like I've actually never thought about that. Like,
The question used to just be, who would you want to meet? The does it change if you get to hang out with them was something that it kind of evolved into.
I
And
like
I
that.
think it brings a really fun twist to it.
I feel like getting drinks with Scump would be hilarious. So if I got to hang
Okay.
out with one, it'd probably be Scump. If I got to meet someone, I think it'd probably be, it'd probably be Hex, honestly,
Okay.
because he's been doing this since the beginning. He pretty much is the beginning.
Yeah.
And I don't know, even if I just got to ask him one or two questions about, like, you know, how does he do it every day? Like, where does he get that inspiration?
Chem
Like,
driver. No.
But like, just things like that, of like just seeing what makes him tick.
Yeah.
Because you don't create this empire, no pun intended, actually. You don't create that by just like, I kind of want to do it. Like, you don't just
I
make
think
that
one thing
without being 1,000% invested.
that him and anybody that has been able to do something similar with their life, I think that one thing that they all do really, really well is find the intersection of their interests, finding where, gaming and graffiti and like hip hop and like where do all these things kind of come together, and then doing something around that intersection. I think that's something Hex has done really, really well. And like I said, anybody that has found themselves in similar positions has done really well. That's something I'm always trying to navigate myself and like find where my interests all come together. And then the thing I probably struggle with the most is finding a way to make content and like deliverable content around that.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
like
find your brand.
I love like gaming and esports, and I love OpTic. Obviously, this show is my favorite thing that I do. Just talking to different OpTic fans all the time and getting to meet everybody.
Mhm.
And as Brandon said last episode, it's the number one fan based podcast there is. I think it's the only one. So,
Hey, you're number
but
one.
I also love like movies and stuff. And like the one thing I want to make content around is movies. I just don't know how I want to make that content yet.
Yeah.
And then, intersecting that. And I also really love cooking and like health and fitness, and where does that fit into the mix? And do I love it enough to actually bring it into the mix? Or is that just something that's like, that's just me? It doesn't need to be out there.
Yeah. I can relate to that actually really well. It's a blessing and a curse to have so many different interests that are in so many different areas. Like, I love gaming. I love music. I've been a musician for over 10 years.
See,
I
don't
love
play
movies.
music anymore, but like I have played music. I've played instruments. I've played trumpet. I've done percussion.
You play trumpet? Let's go.
That was my first instrument. Yeah, in like fourth grade. I have a ukulele in my closet right now. Like,
Nice.
but I don't really play. But I still have a really big appreciation for music. Like, sometimes I wish I had like one interest that I could just go all in on.
Yeah.
But like, if I do that, and I've tried doing that before, I'll get burnt out of that thing because I'm not getting the other pieces.
There's
to the
no
puzzle.
balance.
Yeah.
You're just going all in on one thing. I think the key, and like, shoot, I haven't had this figured out yet either. But like, I feel like the best way to do that is really just find those things that you find interesting and making that decision of whether or not it can fit within that content, or making something altogether that's different but under the same umbrella. Like OpTic, they did so much more beyond just being a sniper team, beyond being an esports organization. Like, they started making content in like a content house. They started playing Minecraft and GTA. They are doing like documentaries now. They've expanded in so many different things in their marketing and their branding. Like, Hex loves graffiti, using that as their art, like inspiration from like different aspects of his passions. Like, doing it in such a high quality way and knowing that it's coming from the heart. Like that stuff shows.
Well, and
And
that's like
when you can blend it so masterly like that, that's when you get success.
Yeah, I think the trick is the blending, because like the passion, like that's what keeps you going. Like I could talk about movies all damn day. I tell everyone, I'm like, I probably listen to film scores more than I listen to music. Like there's just like, I think right now my alarm clock is Hans Zimmer Time from Inception.
Oh my gosh.
Like it's a banger. I've been listening to a lot of versions of the Batman's score. I think that it's an incredible film. I think it's like a 10 out of 10 film. On top of that,
1000%.
I think it's a really good Batman movie. But as a film, like it's flawless.
Pretty much. Did you know, because I'm actually huge into films, you know what the vision is, right? It's the way that they shot The Mandalorian.
Oh, they
It's
the
the giant
CGI
studio.
screens. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
They
tell
filmed
people
the
about
Batman with
that.
that.
Yeah, I tell people about that, and they're like blown away. I'm like, yeah, they can do all of the visual effects in real time and make adjustments.
And
Like,
you know, they don't even use CG. They use video game engines
yeah, that's
to
running
make
on
that.
Unreal Engine 4, probably
It's
5 now.
so
The 5 is
insane.
out.
Like seeing stuff like that just like
there's-
cross paths in such a seamless way to make a better product
It was
for
the
both.
behind the scenes
Bro.
Mandalorian like season 1. I watched that video, and like
I watch it just in my free time.
Yeah,
By the
like-
way, may the fourth be with you.
yes, I'm wearing a.
Hold on.
no! Oh, test.
Hey, you're clear. You're clear.
Okay, you can hear me. I just lost you though.
Oh no.
1 second. This shirt
Hey, it
is
happens.
a Star Wars shirt, is what I'm trying to showcase. There we go. Should be able to hear
There
you
we
now.
go. There you go.
It's
Test
the,
1, 2.
I've brought
Oh.
peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire. Yeah.
That's the greatest shirt ever.
During COVID, I have a mask with it as well.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's subtle, but those that know will know.
See, now I'm at a dilemma. I either watch Revenge of the Sith after this, or I absolutely destroy some kids in League play. I'm not sure.
I want to
tough
play
decision.
Halo, but what I'm likely going to do after this, I edited one of Hex's vlogs, re-edited it as a way to showcase my skills to Matt regarding his replacement. And in said video, I said that next week's video, which will be this week, will be basically my thought process, what things I decided to cut and whatnot. And I need to get started on that project, but I haven't yet.
It'll come with time. You have a lot on your plate, man. You're working. You're a working man.
I try to be. This last like month has been less productive than I'd want, but it's still more productive than I've ever been. So I'm okay with it. I'll ask a couple final questions here, and then we can wrap this up. What are your top 3 favorite moments in OpTic history? Doesn't have to be from Probe Match. It could be the moment they moved into 60-50 if you want.
That's fair. Okay. I'm gonna stick with in-game moments because
Okay.
if I start thinking about content, I would be here for another hour.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
You have a lot of content to cipher through.
Yeah, I'd have to reel back the archives from that. Okay, but in-game moments, I would say Proofy's 4-piece
Okay.
is definitely in the top
Legendary.
3. I watched that. I mean, I wasn't there. I wish I was. It was near where I live too. I regret not going to that, but seeing that in real time, I lost my marbles when that happened. So OpTic moments of all time. So Proofy's 4-piece for sure. Honestly, the formation of the Dynasty squad.
Okay.
I was so sad when Proofy and Clay got dropped, but then I found out they picked up Formal and Crimsix. I'm like, this team is never losing.
Yeah.
Like this team is, and then they dropped Nate Shot, and then he went on to create 100 Thieves, and they pick up Karma. I'm like, that is 4 of the top 5 players of all time on
Yeah.
one roster. That is like disgusting. So that's definitely a top moment. And then I could say them winning OpTic Texas, but I think what was the cooler, like, was just more cinematic, was them completing the reverse sweep on phase in round 2. by 6-0 sweeping them in game 5.
Yeah.
That was so cold-blooded. I have never seen an OpTic team be so
I've-
composed in search and destroy in my life.
Same. It's something I was actually going back in our DMs, and that's something that we talked about was like, it's been years / if ever
Yeah.
I've seen an OpTic team like this disciplined in search and destroy.
I think Rambo has a big factor as to why that is.
Yeah.
He might be the most valuable member of OpTic, like across, like for culture.
As far as like OpTic Call of Duty, yes.
I mean, I can't comment on the players, but like what he does is just totally reinforce that winning culture and like not accepting complacency, which is something that OpTic has struggled with historically.
Yep.
Like they won the first major in Black Ops 4 and then didn't win.
They are historically they're a top 3 team. They get a lot of third place finishes. But they even with the dynasty, like they won a lot, but like as much as I don't like thinking about it this way, like the champs placings do bring that dynasty roster down until IW.
Yeah.
But since the addition of Rambo, they are approaching the game. Like I know Scump's older now. He's a veteran, but they're approaching the game like some of these younger talents that are still really, really hungry to prove themselves. And it's showing. Like you can tell they're putting in the time. You can tell that when they're done scrimming, they're starting VODs. When they're done with VODs, they're talking strats. Like, and then the next day they go and use those in scrims. Like you can tell the work is being put in. Obviously, the Minnesota event, they didn't place the best, but there's a couple of.
You could chalk that to different things for that, though.
Yeah, we'll see how they do at this next event, the next major, I should say, because Jordan General is stepping in for Illy for this next one, which I think that'll be fine.
I mean, I have no expectations when you're putting in a substitute player. Like all expectations are out the window. I hope he does well, and he does well enough to get picked up on a team. Honestly,
I hope he does well enough to get picked up by a team. I also don't because of how much of OpTic he's been. Like I don't want to see him anywhere else, but I also wish the best for him. So yeah, and this event doesn't really matter too much either. This next one, so.
Where is it being held again?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I've been following Halo more than COD this year.
It might be Atlanta.
I think you might be right.
I think FaZe has a home series or has a major.
Do you have a favorite series that OpTic has done? Smooth Comp, Vision, top 5 kill cams of the week, Sniper's Nest.
I know exactly what it is. And it's OpTic, but it's not at the same time. And that was Syndicate, his hunting OpTic project. Okay. His hunting OpTic series
I'm gonna
in
respect
Minecraft.
That is
the most entertaining gameplay series in general. Not even
when
OpTic.
My girlfriend and I got to, I made her watch. I made her watch all of that with me because it was such a big. Good. One, we were kind of starting to play Minecraft together at the time, but two, like that series holds so many core memories for me. Hunting OpTic, but okay, do you remember, if you watch Hunting OpTic, do you remember the OpTic Cube series they did right afterwards?
OpTic Cube?
So it was another Minecraft series, and there was like these little cube like biome type things that you had to like move from like the first cube to the second one. They did it right after Hunting OpTic.
Oh wow. I'm gonna have to watch that after this, actually.
I feel like you've probably seen it.
I may have. I was so addicted to that series itself.
That's what I mean. Like that's why I feel like you probably saw it. But I think it's like it's not Hunting OpTic good, but it's still a really good Minecraft series that they did. It's only like I want to say like 8 episodes, 9 episodes. It's pretty short.
Yeah,
but it was really good.
I just think pound for pound that series was the most entertaining thing to watch because even though he wasn't like Syndicate. He was my favorite Minecraft YouTuber at the time.
I didn't play Minecraft. Like that was my introduction to Minecraft.
Well, that's a good way to start, I gotta say. But like seeing him, even when he was just like screwing with the OpTic guys. Like sometimes he wouldn't even be
like
looking at them, but the
seeing
objective was always there.
the
And him just
evolution
meticulously
of
planning,
the series,
it's
where it's
so
like
cool
it
to
started off as hunting OpTic, like let me go mess with these guys and just like, you know, exploit like the noob little dirt towers to mark where you were and stuff like that. And just seeing all these rookie moves and him exploiting those, to you kind of got to like this mid game where it was just kind of like messing with them, like and starting some drama about like let's move these diamonds from Hex's chest to Nade Shot's chest, and
started like turning them against each other.
Yeah, and like the trolling and leaving the little signs and stuff saying, you know, the Watcher. I still reference that to this day. Like that was my introduction to Minecraft. That's what made me like really start playing it. That's when I started messing with like different redstones and different like hidden doors and stuff like that. And it was because of his little lookout post that he had on like the dirt hill, looking into their first like main base,
farms and stuff.
Yeah. Like
I can remember
great series.
I'm gonna rewatch that series at some point.
I've been meaning to.
That was like a magical series to watch.
And it's sucky because like they've kind of tried to do it again a couple times over the last like handful of years, but like it's just not the same. Like I think it was just one of those things that like you could really only do it the one time.
It was the perfect storm as well.
And,
like the timing,
and because it was like it was all the OpTic guys' introduction to Minecraft kind of too. Like they were all fairly new, like enough that like they kind of knew how the game worked, but they didn't really know what they were doing. And then he had Syndicate, who I feel like zombies and Minecraft were like his two really big things. Oh, it was so good.
I love hearing
series.
OpTic members as well as Syndicate, because I know he's basically part of OpTic. Like he's been with them. Like,
well, I mean,
OpTic, Hex and Syndicate have been like friends for
at the Scuff
years.
House. He would just like show up randomly for like a weekend.
They just hang out.
Yeah,
like that was one cool thing that I didn't know. And then when I found that out, that just like that's like watching a crossover episode from like your favorite childhood cartoon. Like, yeah, it's like it's that level of like, oh my god.
I actually I met him at Anaheim 2013 briefly.
Oh wow.
Didn't get a picture, but yeah, I just remember like he was a super nice dude, like super genuine. Like I have a buddy that doesn't like him because of the whole like CS, the Counter-Strike scandal thing. But like even with the Counter-Strike thing, I can't look at Syndicate badly. He like my only actual experience with him is that he was just so genuine and cool and down to earth. So
yeah.
All right, I think that's a good ending note.
I'm feeling nostalgic right now.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So one thing that I do at the end of every episode is just like on Hot Ones, where he gives the guest a moment to kind of shout themselves out. That's something that I adopted on this show as well. So feel free to tell anyone watching or listening what things you're up to, where they can find you. Of course, I'll link any of your socials and stuff in the description. But shout yourself out, and then we'll close this thing out.
Cool. Well, on Twitter, Instagram, at Jake Bartee, JakeBartee. I'm kind of in a transitional spot in my life right now. I'm heading back home for a little bit, but I'm going to be coming back to where I currently live now sometime soon. But once that does happen, I'm going to be streaming. I'm going to be making content for myself, casting. I'm going to be doing that plenty. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. Thank you for coming on. Thank you anyone that's listening or watching. Jake, you've been an awesome guest. Thank you. I know it was super, not like last minute, but scheduling this was just, I messaged someone, they didn't get back to me, and I was like, you know what? I've been meaning to get you on here. Let's do it. You were available, so thank you.
Yeah, pleasure is all mine.
I'll see you guys on the next episode. I'm out.